See, the way modern science approaches how to understand life is completely different from the way the Vedas approach how to understand life. Science takes the path of trying to go deeper and deeper into every aspect by breaking it down into simpler and smaller particles. Right? So, if you look at from the scientific viewpoint, they will look at the body, then they will say, okay, body is composed of skin, bone, and all those kind of things. Then they will start analyzing cells, RNA, DNA, chromosome, etc., etc., etc. So they go deeper and deeper by breaking up everything into smaller and smaller particles, under the assumption that somewhere the secret of life lies in some very minute particle. The Vedic way of analyzing the life goes the opposite way. Vedic approach is to take a larger and larger view of how the body and how the body is composed of and its components are, the ingredients of the body are making up this body. So, in the Vedic way, in the Sankhya Yoga system, if you see, first they will say the body is made up of earth, water, fire, air and ether. Right? Then, where are this earth, water, air, fire, ether coming from? So, the body is composed of the transformations of these 5 great elements. These 5 great elements are transformed into the 5 different kinds of working senses, 5 different kinds of knowledge acquiring senses, karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, and then there is a subtle body of false ego, mind and intelligence. And then the Sankhya Yoga analyzes, is the soul comprised of any of these things? No, soul is not comprised of these things. So the soul is something else. So then you take a step further back. So then where are all these things coming from? They are coming from the Prakriti. Now where is Prakriti coming from? Prakriti is coming from Mahatattva. Now where is Mahatattva coming from? It's coming from Pradhana. Now where is Pradhana coming from? It is coming from Vishnu. So the Vedic way of the Vedic approach is to take a larger and larger viewpoint, seeing, trying to locate where is the source from these objects have come. Whereas science, what it does is, it takes, okay, this body is composed of these elements. Now instead of asking the question, where have these elements come from which make up this body? Where have these organs come from, which are comprising this body? Instead of asking where they have come from, it tries to analyze what is the composition of these organs, what is the composition of bone, what is the composition of blood, what is the composition of each cell. So the approach is completely different, and therefore you will see what the Vedic science tells us, that this is the reason for this. Science, through its approach, will not be able to come to the same conclusion. This is the reality. So therefore, when the Vedic science says the body is being moved by different kinds of air, the modern science, they will say, no, there are so many neurotransmitters, there are so many nerve signals, there are so many brain cells. These are all the things which are bringing about the movement. This is what modern medical science will tell you. Whereas when you look at Vedic science, they will tell, just like if you take Ayurveda. Ayurveda says there are 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta and Kapha. And it's the balance or imbalance of these that creates all different kinds of rogas or diseases. So any roga is there, Ayurveda will simply try to balance one of these three doshas. That's all, only three. Whereas if you look at modern medical science, there are so many millions of things. So sometimes you will see when you treat a disease with Ayurvedic medicine, it will cure. When you try to do the same thing with allopathic medicine, it may cure, it may not cure. So this also works, this also works. But then if you look at the basis on which both are working and try to analyze from a modern medical viewpoint how this Ayurvedic medicine is working, you will not be able to make out. So you cannot expect to understand everything that the Vedic science is telling from the viewpoint of modern science, because the approach is completely different. So you cannot make out.